Hello, I'm Charlie from Northeast Kais. I want to cover the Supreme Kai Time deck that I've been playing for the last few weeks. I've been on this since it was, since it was first made in set 12, but it wasn't exactly great. It didn't have the right tools, especially with sort of the good black decks that they sort of did. They had like a GSN and Dark Volley, just much better. With the new dash pack support that has come out, and with the removal of God Sealing, this feels really strong. I want to cover what this deck did. It's got it undefeated at locals on Tuesday, and I played Refugio, Blue Bojack, and Grand Priest as well, and it felt pretty good getting into all of those as well. So a quick overview of what the leader does. When this card attacks, draw one card, and it's a burst 3 as well. So you swing, you pay your 3 in the drop to set up your overrun, and you draw as well. The best thing to do with this is to, when you're going to awaken, is to swing, you burst 3, and then you draw, and then awaken to draw 2 more. So awaken condition is when your life is at 4 or less, or if you have 8 or more cards in your warp, you may draw 2 cards, take your life down to 6, and then flip over. On the backside, once per turn, when you play a battle card using Overwhelm, draw 1 card and place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp in your drop. So this is where the leader used to fall down. You have to play the Overwhelm. So if you play against blue, they just God Seal it and it just shuts everything down for the turn. Activate main for 1 black. Choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. If you don't have Unison in play, you play the Unison from your drop, or you warp with a single marker on. So just obviously if they constantly go with Unison, you can play another one. Just it really sort of runs around the Unison in the deck. And activate main. Place 1 card from your life in your drop area, place up to 2 black battle cards from your warp in your drop, and then any battle cards you play using Overwhelm aren't sent to the warp at the end of the turn. So you can do this at any point during your turn. You don't have to set it up at the start to do this, because the Overwhelm scale checks at the end of the turn. So you can use it to either set up your turn or set up your next turn. Obviously with the new support, we'll get onto that a bit later, but you can sort of replace the life, which makes this deck run a lot better, rather than taking your own line to keep them on field. So the units in the deck, we've got 4 Demigra Momentary Ally, and then 2 Sun Goten Fusion Renewed. So these sort of come as a package. So you want to run 4 of these. Ideally want a mulligan for this. If you go in first, I'll play this on turn 2. If you go in second, play it on turn 1. Don't play this straight away, because a smart player will just kill this outright, and then it'll just your turn 2 is just a bit knackered. So you really want to play this on turn 2 if you're going first. So the auto once per turn is a burst 1 as well. If you declare as a black Saiyan or God only card, and you play a battle card using Overwhelm, this gains Wormhole for the turn. So the Wormhole is the effect if you have to play 2 Overwhelms in a single turn, or Dark Overwhelms. So you have to Overwhelm the first one, then the next one you can Dark Overwhelm if you wish, but there's no Dark Overwhelm in this. The +1, place up to 2 black battle cards from your draw, from your warp in your drop area. So essentially, obviously, they sort of set up a little bit is to Overwhelm. Then you place 3 from your drop to your warp. You burst 1 with the Unison to get 4. Uptick goes up to 6. So that way you can set up your big Overwhelms turn after turn after turn. And the -3, add up to 2 battle cards with the energy cost of 7 or less and the Overwhelm skill from your warp to your hand. So you can't grab massive bombs like the Fu, but you can grab anything less. Most of the deck runs off cards that are sort of less than 7. So most of the deck essentially is grabbable back with this. And Sun Goten Fusion Renewed. It's an Overwhelm 2, but the main effect is you activate main, which is if your leader card is a black Supreme Kai of Time, and you discard this card from your hand, look up to 7 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 black battle card with an energy cost of 2 or less and the Overwhelm skill, or up to 1 black Unison with 9,000 power and no specified costs, and then shuffle the deck. You can only do this once per turn though. So essentially, if you obviously don't have this in your hand, you can use this on Goten to set your deck for this. This is sort of imperative that you need this as early as possible. or just to be able to sort of get enough gas, essentially. So I'm going to go on to some of the sort of lower cost overwhelms of the deck. There's 4 Sun Goten for 1 Dark Empire, 3 Trunks Time Regulator, and 2 SS Son Goku Zeno Reflexive Strike. So these are sort of the things you want to see early on to try and awaken as fast as possible. If you play any combination of these cards during your overwhelm turn, your first turn that you can attack, you can awaken the next turn. So I'll go on to this one first. I've seen a lot of people playing Revived Ravager, which is sort of 15k crit, and you put 3 from your deck to your drop. I honestly prefer this. This is an Overwhelm 2 critical. If you lead a card as a Black Supreme Kai of Time, when this card is played using Overwhelm, send it to 2 cards on top of your deck to your warp, and then draw a card. So obviously the Revived Ravager is obviously creating your opponent alive. This does that as well. This is obviously only a 10k though, but it does draw a card, so it does replace itself. The leader can struggle with hand size, so having as many cards to replace themselves as possible sort of helps you get into later games and keep the gas going, essentially. I've got 3 Trunks Time Regulator. It's fantastic. Overwhelm essentially should be any sort of the staple for any black Overwhelm deck. It's an Overwhelm 3 15k. When you play this card using Overwhelm, draw 2 cards, then choose 1 card in your hand and send it to the warp. So again, just helps fuel that 8 cards in the warp as fast as possible to Overwhelm. It's a 15k hitter as well. And I've got 4 of the SS Son Goku Reflexive Strikes. This is Overwhelm 3. It also functions as the counter for the deck. 4 does look a little greedy, but obviously because it's an Overwhelm as well, it can help set up your Awaken turn as well. So you can activate main if your leader card is a Black Supreme Kai of Time and you discard this from your hand. You can look up to 5 cards on top of your deck, add up to 1 Black Son Goku Zeno or Black Vegeta Zeno, and add them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So if you don't want this in hand, for example, you could search for something like a Beyond All Limits or a Feigned Greeting, or any of the sort of Son Goku Zeno or Black Vegeta Zeno, so you could even search a super combo and just sort of help build your deck out. So you could theoretically drop this to fuel Overwhelm, grab a Beyond All Limits, grab it back with Beyond All Limits. And activate main, send this card to its owner's warp, draw 2 cards and send 1 card from your hand to your warp. So this is sort of Overwhelm 3 and then send it immediately to the warp, draw 2, warp 1. So that's how this sort of fuels the Overwhelm. So you put getting 2 cards from hand and then essentially 2 in warp. Absolutely, you really lose from your hand, so you sort of do gain hand size there. Yeah, they're the sort of smaller Overwhelms. Obviously you've sort of seen the super combo, but I'll just go over this. So I'm running 2 SS Vegeta, the Prince Strike, 4 SS Vegeta, the Prince Strikes Back. So only downside with this is that you have to be on 4 life. So is the case to play the Son Goten one, which would be live essentially on your first turn, that you can Overwhelm, because that card, if you have 5 or more cards in your warp, you can draw a card, plus it's a 10k combo all the time, whereas this is only a 0-0. But for black, if you can get yourself down to 4, this is the best super combo by far, just for the ability to be able to drop cards you don't want and draw 2. So the reason that this deck has got quite a lot of hype, I've got 4 Trunks challenging the Dark Empire and 3 Son Goten challenging the Dark Empire. So these are some of the new dashback cards, and honestly they make the deck go so much better and so much faster. I'll cover the Trunks first, which is possibly the best one out of the lot. So it's a 6 cost Overwhelm 6 dual attack, and if your leader card is a Black Supreme Kai of Time, when this card attacks, choose 1 card with 5,000 combo power from your warp, and combo with that with its skills negated for the turn. So essentially in this deck it becomes Trunks fighting against Fate. Apart from also sets up Z Energy as well. This definitely should have had probably Limit 1 or Unique. And I was playing this on Tuesday on my second turn. If I was going second, I got 2 of these on the field at the same time. as well as sort of a SS3 thwarting, essentially. Put a tremendous amount of pressure on my opponent, and it just, just sort of sets up the game from there. I'm going to run 3 Sun Goten Challenging the Dark Empire. You could theoretically put this up to 4, just because obviously if it moves from the field, it's just gone from the game. The fact that you can play it from either hand or warp, I feel like gives it the flexibility to be able to dig it out quite easily. So I'm only running 3, and also I just want to keep this as low as possible, down to 50. So this is an Overwhelm 6, it's a 25k double strike as well. That permanent, which I mentioned earlier, is when this card is removed from the battle area, removed from the game instead. When this card is played from hand, draw a card. So if you overwhelm it or activate main from your hand, you get to replace it, which is always nice. Obviously with the leader as well. If you play this from hand with the overwhelm skill, you'll draw for this and draw for the leader if it's your first overwhelm. It's got an activate main limit one as well. If leader card is a black Supreme Kai of Time, and you have 2 or more energy, and you have a Trunk Serum in play this card from your hand. So obviously you can play that with the Trunk Challenging the Dark Empire. You can also play it with this, so if you have this on field as well, it just means that it's a bit more flexibility in the deck. So if you have this on field, if you overwhelm early and play this, if you don't have this in hand, you can sort of overwhelm 3 for this and pay 1 for this. And it means that you've got your second overwhelm for the turn to just add extra pressure. And then sort of going to sort of carry on with the bigger overwhelms in the deck. I've got 4 SS4 Son Goku Beyond the Limits, 3 SS Vegeta Fame Greeting, and 1 SS3 Gogeta One Dark Empire. Obviously this is at 1 because unfortunately they sort of limit it to 1, which is entirely fair. And then I've got 4 SS4 Son Goku Beyond the Limits and 3 SS4 Vegeta Fame Greeting. A lot of the people I play against sort of are calling for this to be put down to 1, but obviously as a black main I wholeheartedly disagree. It's an Overwhelm 6, 30k, it's a big bomb. If leader card is black, when this card is played using Overwhelm, add up to 1 black battle card, energy cost between 3 and 7 from your warp to your hand. So the card you're grabbing doesn't have to have Overwhelm, so you could grab anything between 3 and 7. What you can do is obviously grab the counter back. Your opponent will see that they have the counter and maybe think twice about sort of negating the attack. Say against a Gamma player, if they want to sort of Android floodgate you, you can obviously show them that you've got the counter in hand. So they might not want to tap themselves out, so it gives you an open field to hit. 3 SS4 Vegeta Fame Greeting. It's an Overwhelm 6 30k as well, so obviously they're good for Union Fusion. When this card is played using Overwhelm, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and sends it to their warp. So rather than obviously plussing you, this will minus your opponent. So it's not quite as good. Still a massive hit though, and a big bomb. Sometimes if my opponent sort of shuts me out of the turn, if they hatch me or something like that, or I can't sort of counter through, and I don't want to lose cards in hand, or even that, and I've got my Kai on play, been able to sort of keep my overwhelms on turn, I'll play out 1 or 2 of these just to reduce their hand size down and have those threats on field for the turn. Partly out of spite, partly to try and limit their options. And 1 SS3 Gogeta, One Dark Empire. Everyone should know what this does by now, but I'm going to cover it just in case. It's a unique double strike, so you can only have 1 on field at the turn. It's Overwhelm 6 for 1 black, or 1 black Union Fusion. Son Goku, Zeno, and Vegeta Zeno. With this, you can use the fusion pieces from your warp. So that obviously means that these 2, for Union Fusion, you have to have the same power. So you got these 2. You've also got the super combo and the reflexive strike as well. So that gives you there's quite a lot of chance to be able to have the fusion pieces in here to play it. So this can come up quite often. Obviously, it's also grabbable back with Beyond All Limits. So if they do get rid of it, you can just recycle it over and over again. It's a 25k double strike, and when this card attacks, choose 1 of your opponent's battle card and send it to the owner's warp. So because your auto triggers before any blockers, if you swing, you can warp the blocker on their side of the field. which is quite big if you're trying to go for game. I'll cover some of the other pieces now. So I've got 1 SS Bardock the Tenacious, 2 Marseille Belligerent Warrior, and 1 Dark Brawly Heartless Berserker. So these are the sort of last pieces of this sort of overwhelm package essentially. 1 SS Bardock the Tenacious, so this is your pseudo sort of black floodgate, so it's an overwhelm 6, 1 black. When this card is played using overwhelm, your opponent can only attack with battle cards once during their next turn. So it just limits their options essentially. If you need to stall out, you can use this. When this card is played, you can't activate copies of this card during your next turn, so you can't continuously just do this to limit your opponent's options. You could do it 1 turn, then not the next turn, and turn after that. It's good if you're in a pinch and you feel like if you can't always push through, you can play this to make sure you can secure your next turn. I've got 2 Marseille Belligerent Warrior. This card is fantastic. It's a 20k deflect. If the card is black and you've sent a card from your drop to your warp using it during this turn, reduce the energy cost from your hand by 6. So essentially, if you overwhelm, you're sending a card from your drop to your warp. Essentially, it's a 1 cost 20k crit. Because on the turn it's played, it gains critical, and when you play it, you send 2 of your opponent's cards to the warp, and they get it with their skills negated for the turn at the end of their next turn. So essentially, they can't use them to sort of attack you with. They'll get them defensively, essentially. I've done this with a guy playing Yellow Piccolo, and essentially I just chemically warp the pieces out of their field so they can union absorb, and it sort of shuts turns down. And obviously you can use the Z battle cards, and because if you do it on a Z battle card, the card doesn't come back, it's removed from the field, so it's permanently removed from the game. So you can remove stuff like the sort of 2-drop Red Vegeta and sort of bigger threats like that with this. And 1 Dark Brawly Heartless Berserker. This is essentially here just for spot removal, along with the Famed Greeting, and these essentially, there's not much barrier removal in black apart from Black Smoke, which I don't have in here because it's sort of a 2 cost. I don't really want to be paying for 2 for stuff if I can help it. The idea of this is to sort of go as aggressive as possible and try and limit your opponent's options by essentially constantly hammering them with attacks. So that's sort of how I'm trying to control the match essentially. I've got 3 SSG Trunks Power Awakened. Let's cover these last bits. So 3 SSG Trunks Power Awakened, Mirror Creator Absorbed, and 1 Evil Saiyan Malice Made Flesh. So the Trunks, it's a sort of 20k dual attack. If you have 8 or more cards in your warp, you can play it from your warp. So because you're sort of bursting a massive amount of pieces out of the deck, you can sometimes miss pieces that you want to play. This is grabbable from there. It is 2 cost. I mentioned earlier that I don't really want to be paying 2 for stuff unless I have to, and this is how I feel about this card, so I might drop it down at 2 and fill it the place with something else. It's never really came up in play massively, but the idea is obviously you want to sort of pay as little energy as possible for things if you can't even get away with it. What this card is good for is if the game's sort of starting to slow down on you, and you need to be able to set up these big overwhelms, because it's a dual attack, and when this card attacks, place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp in your drop. So swinging twice, you can put 6 back, and sets up a big overwhelm. And sort of how I sort of close out games. Every single game I played on Tuesday, I closed out with Mirror. What you can do is obviously like get them down to 2 life. You can play Evil Saiyan Malice Made Flesh, which sort of warps a life, and you can grab a card from their warp. I'll cover what this guy does. So if your opponent's life is at 2 or more, when this card is played, look through your opponent's life and send up to 1 card, and then you cost a 7 or less from it to your opponent's warp. If your opponent shuffles their life, then play up to 1 black battle card, and then you cost a 7 or less from your opponent's warp in your battle area with the skills negated for the game. So obviously if they have a good seven cost or less card in their warp. You can send that to the warp and then play it. This is good. It's good sort of closing out games, getting down for 2-1. I've also had this sort of established early on against like a Beerus player. Get the information out of their life, know what they've got in there, then sort of try and control the game from there. All at once per turn is when your opponent plays a battle card, mainly costs 7 or less. You may send one of your battle cards to its warp if you do gain control of the card played. Because it doesn't choose, this does get around barrier. It's also quite a heavy tax on your opponent as well. Also, you have to send a card to your warp, but most of your deck you can grab back with Beyond the Limits anyway, so it's not a massive tax for you. But it just means that the first battle card that they play is vulnerable, no matter what it is. So you can just grab it. So it makes your opponent think and have to try and actively remove this, which can sort of stall their turn a little bit. And then one Mirror Creator absorbed. So there's obviously only one in here. It's one of 2 10k combo pieces. Like I said, I don't want to really tap energy for stuff if I have to. It's obviously just, if you're playing like SS4, this is combo or 10, which is always nice. So obviously it's no round 4, tap 1 energy. When this card attacks, this guard gains 5,000 power for every card in your warp. So because you're moving a lot of cards out into your warp, you can gain a massive amount of power. With the counter, if your opponent's have 1 life, you just swing, negate, counter, good game. You can easily get this up to 130, 150k without having the combo cards out of your hand at all. It's a great way to close out games if they can't nail this during the attack. So I do actually run negates in this. So I've got 2 Sun Gohan Hostile 7 counter and 3 Support the Dark Empire. So as you can see, obviously most of these negates don't really work unless you're on 4 or less life, but all of them are free. So if you want to expend energy to attack aggressively, you can negate for free defensively. So these are just the blocker negates, the Support the Dark Empire, so you all know what these do. If your life's at 5 or less, you can activate the card's counter by paying a card from your life to your hand instead of paying its energy cost. So essentially, if they go in with a double strike or a big triple strike at 5, bang, just negate the attack down to 4. Super combos of life. Really nice. And then these are the sort of Sun Gohan rares that I play. These are really good for black. So you can play. So the good thing about this, obviously with a heavy burst deck such as this, is that you can negate the attack by playing this card from your drop to the field. The cost of this is taking your life to hand and bottom decking a card. So again, if they're trying to go in big, you can use this to try and sort of stop the damage. If they're trying to go in for the big card or with a crit and you don't really want to take it, you can do this. With the Z battle cards, obviously with Kai's effect, you'd have to sort of take life to keep them on field, but you don't anymore. So it feels like less of a tax to try and do it. And Z battle cards, there's 1 SSB Vegeta, Smiling the Impossible, 2 Majin Buu Pure Destroyer, 3 Pan Search for Another World, and 1 Demon God Demigra Begrudging Ally. So I'll go for this one first, so the SSB Vegeta. It's just a good solid card to have in any deck really. If you don't have the pieces in your hand that you want, you can take the card from life and bottom deck and draw to sort of try and filter your deck through. Additionally, if you're playing a deck that, such as the Red Vegito, that likes to play big bombs that triple strike you down, you can take your life from 6 down to 5, and then that means your blocker negates are active if they try and go in with a 35k triple strike or like a crit. It just means that you can control how that damage is taken. 1 Majin Buu Pure Destroyer. This card is honestly insane. It's such a good black value card. So it's meant for the AOD build, but you're really playing it for the activate main. So if you lead the card is black, you have 3 or more energy, place 1 of your Z energy in your drop, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it under this card, and it gains 20,000 power to the end of your opponent's next turn. So that essentially makes it a 25k blocker, and you're eating an opponent's card, or 25k aggressive swing for 1 energy. Also, you're moving cards on your opponent's side of the field, which is big. So essentially with the, there's a lot of built-in removal in this deck, obviously not massively in terms of barrier, but any card that doesn't have protection isn't going to hang around long against this. So you got 3 Pan Search for Another World. This card is huge for this deck, and just it makes it into a monster. It's 1 cost, 1 specified black, 2 Z energy. So if you can imagine like a turn 2, you can swing in with the Trunks challenging the Dark Empire. If you combo the 2 cards, put those in your Z energy, this sets this up. So auto limit 1, if you lead a card as a black Supreme Kai of Time, when a card is placed from your life into your drop area or one of your leader skills, add the top card of your deck to your life. So this essentially means that the life you take to keep your overwhelms on the field is replaced by the Pan. So again, that tax isn't taken off the Supreme Card leader, which means you can stay a reasonably high life and keep all these bombs that you're playing on field. The Red Vegito matchup that I played, I closed out whilst at 6 life because I was trying to deal with all the threats on field. I got up to like 130k single with the mirror, just from like cards in field, cards in warp. And activate main, limit 1 bond 3, cards with Zeno in its character name. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. So this is even more removal, diggable from the Z deck. You need to have at least 3 cards on the field, and all of them need to have Zeno in their character name. The Pan does. So you can obviously have like a Pan, Trunks, and like a Vegeta. Like most of the cards in the deck have Zeno in their name as part of the character name. So it's really flexible in terms of actually getting removal on this to work. And finally, there's one Demon God Demiweb, Begrudging Ally. I took out a 4th Pan for this. I think once Peta Z battle cards come out, this could come out. So it's a 2 cost, 3 Z energy, so that's quite steep for this deck. It's got unique as well. This card gains 2,000 power for each card in your Z energy. So as you stack more and more Z energy, it becomes more and more powerful. And you sort of once per turn, as if it's your turn, when you activate Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm, or play a black battle card from your warp, draw 1 card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards when it costs a 6 or less, and send it to the owner's warp. So again, it's more removal. If you need to close out the game and you don't necessarily have like your hand starting to get a bit low and you've comboed a couple of Z cards off with Z energy, you can use this. But without protection, it's quite easily hit with counter players such as like the Android 18 from Gamma. A few things like that, so it's kind of risky to play, especially for 2 energy, which is quite costly. So yeah, I really enjoy this deck. I've been playing it since it came out. It's always been a little bit like Rogi, a little bit not the best, but I'm glad that the support they've got out for it at the moment makes it really strong. Yeah, if you like this deck profile, just don't forget to leave a like and stuff, and enjoy some of my more content. Thank you very much.